We love you.
We bless you. We behold the Christ in you. We accept you just the way you are. Walk in beauty. You are divine.
Everybody could stand up again. Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my ears that I may hear voices of truth thou sendest clear. And while the wind does fall on my ear, everything false will disappear. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my ears, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my mouth and let me bear gladly the warm truth everywhere. Open my heart and let me prepare love with thy children thus to share. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my heart, illumine me, Spirit divine.
Now let's bring the prayer box. Thank you. This is our prayer box. We keep it at the back of the chapel so it's available for you to write down your prayers on a slip of paper there at your pew. Place them in the prayer box where they'll remain for about 30 days before we send them off to Kansas City and Silent Unity where they'll be prayed over for another 30 days. So let us just take a moment to still ourselves and go into that quiet place within. And from that place, let us lift up in gratitude. Gratitude that these prayers are fulfilled to the highest good of all. And for this we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. The daily word. Find time enough for all that it is desired to accomplish. How will I best spend my time and my resources on this beautiful spring day? I begin by remembering my spiritual inheritance, my divine facilities that provide all I need to meet any opportunity or any
challenge that life presents. I also follow the example of Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore. I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I use divine order to prioritize my agenda. My spirit and understanding show me the most effective way I can complete each task. I use strength and zeal to maintain my energy and enthusiasm. Love keeps me focused on the good my efforts are accomplishing. Through the faculty of elimination, I release whatever I discern is not mine to do. Scripture from Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. Let us turn to the Lord's Prayer. Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
And let us just take a moment again to pause. Taking a deep breath, breathing in love, and releasing that breath, and breathing out, feeling the gratitude. And again, another deep breath in, hold for a short time, and release. Relaxing into this moment. And as your breathing continues at a normal pace, maybe a little bit more deep than normal, let us just relax our bodies. And as our body relaxes, allow the mind to become a little more quiet and a little more still. And we relax into this moment, secure that all is in divine order, and that we are right exactly where we're meant to be right now. Activating that power of love in life. Let us attract to us that life energy that comes directly from Source. It is always with us, and right now we open ourselves to allow it to flow through our body. And as it moves through us, it activates each cell, putting all in divine order so that we can become exactly that wholeness that we are meant to be, that we were before creation ever happened, and we will be until there is no time. We are eternally this perfect potential body that is our true self. And so this life force touches each cell with that perfect wholeness. And we feel it move through us. Through us and back to the universe, touching each one of us and expanding and growing until we are that energy that touches the entire universe. Focus your attention now on your heart. If it helps to focus, place your hand over your heart. And just feel that warmth. Maybe you can feel your heartbeat, the pulse, the rhythm of life. Bring to mind a feeling of love. Something that happened in your life where you just knew that you were giving and or receiving love. That perfect, unconditional love of the divine. Feel that now. Feel that now in your heart center. Feel that energy radiating through your body. It is divine love. And feel it reaching out to touch you. All of those in our church community who are here, and all of those in our church community who are not here. Touch each one. If you can bring their face to mind, that's good. If not, just see us as one living organism together. The unity on the mountain church community. Gather in that energy from all of us, feeling it move through from source, through us, expressing that divine order, expressing through us. And let us radiate it out into the community, into Huntsville, the county, our state, and continue to grow to our nation. And this energy knows no borders, into our world and the universe. Feel that power pulsing through each of us, through us, allowing it, rejuvenating life and love. Continue to feel this as we go into the silence. Continue to feel this energy as we get quiet and go into the silence. That warmth in our heart, love, life, compassion. Compassion first for self. That you are okay. Even better than okay. You are that perfect image of Source expressing in this world. Alive to do what is meant for you to do. Energized to accomplish that. Grateful. Grateful not for any particular thing, just grateful. From this gratitude, we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. So many of you know we had a board meeting yesterday.
Most of us.
In fact, I think more of us are here that were at that meeting than are here today that weren't. But that's good. Everything is in divine order, and we are exactly where we're meant to be. So at the board meeting, we discussed our budget, got everything in line, made some changes. We discussed the bylaws that we're working on, revising them to bring them up into this decade. putting them more in line with what unity has in mind for us to be, and still maintaining our own individual personality. And as you can imagine, before we began our business of the day, what the topic of discussion was. Because it's been all over the news. You can't go shopping without realizing it. I've never seen so many people wiping their buggy down before they start pushing it. You know? That's probably always a wise thing to do. I can't say I've always done it, but I try not to lick my fingers while I'm in the store either. So after we finished the business that we had at hand that needed to happen, I made a suggestion to the board based on a lot of soul searching within, a lot of researching without. So trying to bring in the best of both sides of me, the head and the heart, to make a choice or a decision, or to make a recommendation, I really should say, that would be in line with what Spirit would want us to do. So I came out of, I'll go into that decision more in a minute. I said I was going to change the title of the talk yesterday, but I decided not to. I want to talk about the silence. But there is some things that happened to me in relation to that coronavirus. The situation just couldn't be denied. It was all around. I kept hearing it on the news. And I noticed some changes within myself. So I took this situation as an opportunity to observe my reaction to the situation. And I did notice as I went, our household became low on rump rolls. Rump rolls. Toilet paper. Rump rolls. Okay. So I was at the store because I had heard at work that there just weren't any there. And I thought, well, maybe there won't be, but maybe they got a fresh shipment. And I just luckily happened walking to Walmart down that aisle, and here was my brand. There was only 4 packs left.
Just like the war.
It was like, wow. The shelf was bare, but what I needed was there.
Yes.
Now I have to say that there was a little bit of fear in me because instead of getting the normal 1 pack, I got 2. I didn't take them all, you're right. Could have been worse. And I realized what I was doing, and through the days, as I would hear it come up and the symptoms being described, I would notice that my throat would get a little scratchy, or my nose would run a little bit. Okay, now we have to remember it's hay fever season already, so... But as soon as I realized that I was... What was I thinking? That my symptoms would go away. In other words, as soon as that fear started coming on me, I would automatically start to get light symptoms of being sick. And when I realized it, I changed my thought, and those symptoms went away. There was really nothing to them other than a little bit of fear. I really believe, had I allowed that fear to continue, I might be that person in there loading the buggy up. I might be that person having to run to get tested. Because that's all it really takes. Our thoughts do create. But there is something that we can do about that. The CDC is a good place to go. That's why I put that on there, because you can get good facts from the CDC, good guidance on things to do. And that's one of the places that I researched as I was trying to make my decision on what would be the best course to recommend for our church community. But really, no matter what the situation is, whether it's a pandemic that's sweeping through the world, or it's someone we work with who is just staying on our case for nothing. It's still an outside situation, and the answer is always the same. Stop thinking about the difficulty, no matter what it is, and think about God instead. And what we really mean is practicing the presence, which means practicing going into the silence. I really like Ed Rabel, so I'm going to read his quote about the silence, because it just, I just really liked it. All divine ideas have their origin in the silence. Silence and stillness are the matrix out of which come all needed good. It's that background, it's what's behind everything. You know, you could say source or substance. It's really hard to talk about these things, but he's saying it's the matrix from which all good comes. Sounds like God to me. When we enter a state of inner silence and stillness, we are connected to the source of pure power and strength. We can call on that source and that substance to renew and rejuvenate our self. Because we use that energy in our daily life. It doesn't matter what we're doing, we're using that energy to get the work done. And we can go into the silence and we can tap on that endless supply and bring that into our life. So the question to me is, if I'm in the middle of a situation, I'm in the middle of an anxiety attack, for example, or an episode of being fearful about something, anxious, worried, angry even. Those are situations where our mind is working overtime. I mean, it's going and it's spinning and there's just no room for nothing. And then we become aware. And we see what our brain is doing, where our thoughts are going. That's an important moment. And what we do with that moment is very important to our well-being. So we have this thing called prayer. Prayer. In a true prayer, we take with us words of truth, a statement of truth, or an affirmation. Now, this is Charles Fillmore. We turn our attention within to the very center of our being, which is where Source dwells. We affirm these words of truth and meditate on them. We get very still and wait in the silence for Source to make them real to us. Now think about what we did right before I started talking. Think about how I began. We took some deep breaths and we relaxed together. I brought in affirmations of truth. Activated that life that we have within us. We felt our heart center. We affirmed that love, that life that's within us. We radiated it out to the world. And then we went into silence. Because we're here at church, we only allowed a minute for the silence. But when you're praying by yourself, it can be 10 seconds or it can be an hour. It just all depends on your situation. But these steps don't have to take 10 minutes. You can go through all of these steps in the line at the grocery store, at the red light, when you're driving. Prayer isn't something that has to be what we think of as meditation, where we're sitting, yoga style posture and lighting a candle or incense. That's one way to pray. There's so many ways to pray. Each of us has our own way of praying. And that's what brings us back to center. So no matter the situation, we can take that deep breath. We can affirm that affirmation that we keep in our pocket, ready for us at all times. That can change based on the situation too. We can spend a moment in the silence. We may or may not have a realization of truth, where we actually hear that still small voice with guidance for us. But if we ask for it, we're more likely to get something. And then when we come out with gratitude, thankful for what we have, who we are as divine beings, just feeling grateful. I like to say, Amen. Which just means, like Cliff likes to say, so it is. It's just another way of saying, so it is. So now I want to get a little bit and talk about the decision that the board made yesterday. When I came out of my meditation yesterday morning, the first thing I saw on the news was that Alabama had closed all the public schools, and they had put a limit on it. They said, I could have sworn I heard the 18th, but when I looked back on the website it said the 19th. So from the 19th to the 3rd, they would open up the following Monday. So that's what I recommended we do here at the church, that we follow the guidelines that Alabama felt was prudent for our school children, and that we discourage the gathering of people together who may know that they have it, may not have it at all. But some of us travel. We're all exposed to different people through the week. So there's good reason to think that we should play safe. We should play safe. If we look around on a normal Sunday morning, we can see that more of the congregation's in the higher risk category than is not. So just being a good steward, I felt like that was the recommendation I should make. While the church is closed, there's going to be a newsletter that continues to be published on Wednesdays. It actually comes out Tuesday night usually, so it's in your mailbox when you wake up on Wednesday morning. And in addition to that, I'm going to start something new I've kind of always wanted to do and never really had the motivation, the prodding to actually do it, and that is I'm going to record a message on Saturday that'll be available for Sunday morning. And this is going to be, I feel like once the dam breaks, I'm going to be able to continue to do this. And so what it'll allow is I want to put these links to these on our website so that it would, it would be like, okay, well, you only have 20 minutes to talk on Sunday morning, but there's a lot more that I want to say a lot of the time. And this is an outlet to go a little deeper into the message than what I could go on Sunday. So this is going to be a way to start me into doing that. So if there's something that you're hearing and you like and you just want to know more about it, then it might be a good idea to go look on YouTube and see how much further down the rabbit hole that you want to go. So I also want to encourage each of you to get somebody else's phone number. I know a lot of us aren't here, so you've got access to the directory, and if you don't, you can always call one of the board members and get some phone numbers for some people who aren't here. When we're not meeting together on Sundays, we don't have the benefit of that fellowship, of that mutual support. You know that trees will grow taller when they're together. than they will when they're out alone in the field. Because when they're together, when the wind blows, they blow together. Each one of them takes some of that force. But when a tree is by itself in a field, it has to take all of that wind. So let's be like the trees in the forest and support one another through this time. We don't want to go and visit one another necessarily, but we can reach out on the phone and talk. And I do encourage a call as opposed to an email or a text, because when we hear that voice, there is power in the spoken word. There is that love that is transmitted. And we can make that connection so much better. Another thing to do is pay attention to our local news programs. I listen to one, it doesn't really matter, I think they're all going to do a fine job. But I do know the one that I listen to is 48, and on their website they've got a section just for coronavirus information. And so you can stay updated, because when the public schools are opening again, we're going to start church back. Now I'm going to put that information as soon as I know it. It'll be in the first newsletter. Right now they're saying the 3rd, but they're also saying that that date might change, because we don't know. That's a couple weeks from now, and with something like this, the situation is actually changing from hour to hour. When we started the board meeting, there was only 1 case in Alabama. Now there's 5, and 1 of them at Marshall Space Flight Center. Now that was last night at 6 o'clock. So I haven't checked this morning. I don't say this to bring fear. I say that to bring awareness. We need to be aware of what's going on so we know what action to take that's prudent. I want to tell you a story. This is the guidance that I got that morning before I came out of prayer and turned on the news and found out what Alabama had done with our schools. I was pointed to this parable. It's called the parable of the talents. And you can see there it's in Matthew. And I'm just going to summarize. Let's just tell the story. So there was a head of a household who had to go out of town for a time. And he had quite a bit of money available to him. And he was a shrewd trader. He was very much wanted to increase what he had. Okay? And he had some servants who worked for him. And the story says there were 3 in particular that he shared some of his monies with before he left. Each one according to their own abilities. To one servant, he gave 5 shillings. 5 pieces of money. That's what's... I like gold pieces because I play Dungeons and Dragons. So, 5 talents. I've also definitely heard talents too. So, 5 pieces of money went to one. 2 pieces of money went to another. And the third only got 1 piece of money. And so the head of the household goes off and takes care of his business and eventually comes back. And he says, okay, servants, what did you do with the money that I left you? And the first servant says, here, you gave me 5. I invested it and I made another 5. So here is your 10 pieces of money. And he went to the second one. He said, you gave me 2. And I also invested it. And here is the 2 that I made. And he went to the third servant, who had only gotten 1 piece of the money. And he says, I know that you are a shrewd person and that you make money here and there. And I was afraid. I was afraid of what you would do if I lost the money, so I buried it. And here is what you left me. And he gave him 1 piece. The landlord, the head of the household, took that 1 coin from him and gave it to one of the other two servants. If you are wise with a lot, you get a lot. If you are unwise with the little, you don't even get the little. And I took that to mean in our case that here, personally, I've been put into a position of responsibility for this church community. Not to say how it is, but to have my say and my recommendation. And I took it seriously, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't burying the one coin that I had so that it would be taken away, but that I was acting in a way that was prudent and in a way that would grow our church community. And so that's when I came into there and the news was on and I heard that, I knew what the answer was. And that's the recommendation I made, and it was accepted unanimously by the board. There really was no argument. There was more discussion about what today would look like, I think, than anything else. Yeah, and our thoughts create, so if we think it's only going to be the Lord.
Yes, we did it.
Okay. So, how do we deal with that fear that's all around us? And I've kind of already talked on this. I just want to kind of reiterate. We've got the golden key. It's something that's really easy to remember. I've even written a song, so maybe that'll be in my first little Sunday thing. I'll play that song. Stop thinking about the difficulty, no matter what it is, and think about God instead. It's easy to say that. Sometimes it's much harder to do. So give me some steps. Remember our affirmative prayer. Relaxation. Get comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. Just relax. Affirm. Bring your attention to your heart. If you're having difficulty doing that, touch your heart. Put your hands there. Think about love. Think about something that you felt in your life. Some instance where you've really felt that love. Where you've felt it going from you or coming to you. Or both. And then just hold on to that feeling. And then for the silence, just let go. All of that you were thinking about, love, whatever the situation was, it just goes and it just goes. The mind becomes relaxed. I really like the statement that I heard a spiritual father make. I like to just sit and look at God while God sits and looks at me. It's a not doing. Realization, just like anything, don't be attached to the outcome. It's the journey. Sometimes we're going to get a message, some guidance from Spirit, but sometimes not. And my experience says more often than not, you'll just get that warm, fuzzy feeling. And it's the perfect segue into gratitude. Just feeling grateful. It's just a warm, fuzzy feeling that there's not a thing in the world that I have what I need. There is a no need. If you're about to make a phone call and call a friend that you know where they're going to be. And I know we've all got people in our lives like that. And it might be someone at work. But when you know you're fixing to be in that position where there's going to be someone who's going to be in fear or in negativity, before you even pick up the phone or go into that office or as soon as there's a knock on the door, invite Christ into the situation. Just say, I need your help right now. And I know that you're here with me. Now remember what the Christ is. That's that true self within us. This isn't someone who comes from outside and visits us. This is that part of ourselves that we find within us when our ego mind gets quiet. It's a wonderful opportunity that we have because we're going to get to observe ourselves in all kinds of situations throughout this time. Keep in touch with each other. If you're in a state and you can't shake it and there's no one to call, there's always Silent Unity. The number is 1-800-NOW-PRAY. If you don't have that number somewhere, write it down, program it into your phone, or put it on the bulletin. There's pens there. There's always someone there to pray with you. If someone you know is experiencing this, give them the number. There's no cost, ever. You don't have to even give them your name. You can give them your name. You can give them your email, and they'll send you an affirmation that you can use through the rest of the week or forever. But you don't have to do that. All you really have to do is say, I want prayer. They'll ask you what the situation is, and you can tell them as much information as you want. But there will be someone that answers that. The other thing I want to leave you with is just remember big love. Remember the love we have for one another, that we share as a spiritual community, that we all have from that Spirit within us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I